Welcome back, everybody, to WTC TV. We've got a special episode of the Collector Series today. Welcome our friend Ben Woo, Double Up Woo Woo, Tony Vela
Woo woo.
from
Yeah.
WTC. I'm Paul Anand from Wrestling Card Price Guide. Today, we're going to be talking about ultra high-end collectibles in the wrestling hobby. And our man Ben here has got some really nice pieces, notwithstanding what's sitting behind him at the moment. But before we get into
Look
talking
at that.
about your history with wrestling and collectibles, what's with the woo double up woo woo? I know what the woo is, but like, where'd you come up with that handle? Because that's where you're known as on social, right?
Yeah, I love it's really simple. It's just a stupid thing that popped in my head. Everyone looks for a catchy handle or something different. And for whatever reason that double up was in my head. And I love Ric Flair, so I'm like, woo, double up, woo, woo.
Yeah, it's got a
I
bit of a
feel like he
rhythm,
could
bit of a rhythm
he
to
could
it.
really do that
Yeah.
some justice. He-
Awesome. Awesome. But I'll call you Ben for now, so I don't have to say woo 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 for the rest of the episode.
Whatever.
So we're here with Ben and Tony, and we're talking about high-end wrestling collectibles, and Ben has really made a dent in that space. I'll let you do the talking. First of all, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Talk about some of these top collectibles. Of course, we are always doing cards, and we know about figures and belts, but you're into a whole bunch of other things that are really, really cool. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I mean, just a little history, I guess, a little history of myself. I'm just a collector at heart. I started as a kid. Everything starts with cards. I kind of morphed into in the major sports, type one photography, game use bats, tickets. As I matured, I wanted something really closer to the game. Put yourself there, museum type quality stuff. And I did that for a long, long time, and I started had some wrestling photos from way back when too. I always loved wrestling as a kid, and I just saw some posts on social. And I don't even know what they were, and I started buying a couple cards, getting them in my hands, and then a couple tickets, and then learning, deep and diving deeper into the history of wrestling. I just love history, in general, and you can tie when you can tie a sport or something that you love into history and kind of see the inner workings of it within history and how it changes with politics or whatever it is, and pinpoint certain things that it really gets to me. And what I also found with wrestling, unlike like baseball, I mean, every story, pretty much the big ones have been told, they're known, they're written about. In wrestling, there's a whole timeline. I mean, it's the oldest sport there is. Now it morphed, obviously, in a Greco-Roman or whatever it is, the Olympics, to what we have now. But there was a merge in between, a timeline, and there's some collectors out there like England that really appreciates, you know, kind of where they merged. But even the stories that are unknown of all these guys and just the history, it's untapped. And as I started buying stuff and getting it, I'd go down this rabbit hole and then I'd take me over here and this over here. And then I just kind of started collecting a little bit of everything. Probably didn't do so well in some of the things that I purchased right away, but I'm kind of really zoned into the high end, vintage cards, but then also just like the history and what that is stubs to me, contracts, type one photos. I kind of went back to the same thing that I did for baseball, but now with wrestling, ring worn. So I just feel like there's so much to be learned about it, and for everybody really. And there's really not a central place for someone to go and get all the information. I mean, you guys are very centric, obviously, in the card
Sure.
space.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no one, you guys have it all. But for the actual history and timeline of wrestling, there really isn't a place. So it's infinite learning every day. And it's addicting to say the least, and expensive. I bet.
Well, you've done a fantastic job sort of curating this stuff. Did it start with cards? Like, if you think back to your earliest memory of actually, like, I can remember seeing the Topps 85 set, buying a pack, and so
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, this is neat." Having no idea 30 years later or whatever it is, what it would morph into. But did it start with cards, or was it t-shirts, or
Absolutely. No, with wrestling, it did. I mean, it started with cards, and then I'd got one of the old ripped T-shirts. I would get the closed circuit. I was in North Dakota, so we'd have to do the closed circuit for WrestleManias. And the first one I did was three. So you'd get the program from from the theater, and my buddies liked it too, and then I'd get the cards but then you didn't wrestle, right? I mean, I'd wrestle with siblings but baseball and other sports you still play. So that's kind of why I went that direction as I got a little older, I think, and didn't keep on doing the wrestling, collecting cards, and then but I did add certain things, photos, a couple tickets, when I was hardcore collecting baseball and other sports within wrestling, but then just kind of dove really hard back into it a couple of years ago, 2, 3 years ago.
Yeah, you mentioned tickets, and Tony and I have noticed the last couple of years ticket stubs becoming way more valuable. I had a WrestleMania 6 that I sold. I didn't make a killing on it, but it was a few $100 anyways, and it was kind of messed up. But some of your stubs are from very like WrestleMania 3. I think you had one for, and it was a bunch of very significant events. You see that where Kerry beat Flair, or the ladder match, or Hell in a Cell, and these kinds of iconic cards that we think about today, them ticket stubs, particularly autographed, and there was a massive collectible. I don't know if you were behind it. No, I think Matt Cardona was looking at it, but it was all the WrestleManias signed by Stone Cold along the way, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, all of that. I was bitter on that. I didn't go hardcore. I kind of like to get them myself if I can. And I successfully got one of the WrestleMania Stone Cold's 14 done through a buddy at the National. It wasn't myself, but it was my ticket, and I know it's good. But yeah, I mean, the tickets are so rare compared to other things, and it just it dates the event. And for wrestling fans, I find they love everyone loves autographs. They love going to the events. I mean, that's what it is, and that kind of brings it all together. That one ticket stub. So I have a whole run of WrestleManias, the whole thing,
Oh,
that I put together, every single one except for 39 and 38,
wow.
because they're very rare because they're pretty much all digital.
Yeah, I
And
imagine that more of the rare stuff, modern stuff's going to be much harder to find because nobody really prints tickets
Right.
anymore. Very rare.
yeah, but what's interesting is now that tickets have gotten, like, in the last 2 years, it might be coincidental, I'm not sure. They've gone up a lot. So this last WrestleMania, same thing, all digital. I could not get one printed. I tried every way I could to buy them and go and get them printed, but it's just dumb luck. So the only ones that come out is if they have to move somebody because they have a production change or something. So it's usually one or two sections. Well, historically, people are like, okay, and just throw them, right? They weren't
Hmm.
collectors. But now there's signs out there of people going, I'm a collector if you have tickets. It was on social. So now people are smartening up. So like this year of 41, they're still rare, but there's way more of them for sale on eBay. And it's that change, that video crew change or production change, than there was even from last year.
Well,
So
up here
people are
for
smartening up.
the Elimination Chamber that we had in Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
you had the option of requesting a printed ticket
Mm.
because, and I remember reading about this that they do everything through Ticketmaster on your phone, and there's nothing, it's all virtual. But if you wanted a souvenir ticket, you could put in for one.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that
So,
they
so that's
didn't.
something I
Well,
don't know if it's specific to the event here, or if or if it's something that WWE or whoever the venues do, or whoever's behind it all. But the physical ticket, like Tony just mentioned, we don't do that anymore. So it's going to get harder and harder going along. Now, I want you both of you guys to chime in on this. What would you pick as the most valuable ticket stub out there? Would it be the first WrestleMania, the third WrestleMania? Where would you guys, or would it be something different? Would it be where we lost Owen? I mean, there's some nights in wrestling where, we look back at the night, we say, wow, what a night that was. What would you guys say?
Tony, you want to go on this one first?
I'm just trying to think of. I mean, WrestleMania one would be pretty tough, I would think. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not the largest crowd, so you're going to have a lot less ticket stubs. And like Ben has said, a lot of people just threw that stuff away. It wasn't really a collectible to them.
right.
I mean, I mean, I have almost all of my concert stubs that I've ever saved from every concert I've ever been to in my life. Um, but I'm just kind of a freak that way, I guess. But um, yeah,
Collector.
I'd have to go probably with one of the earlier WrestleManias. I mean, three would be a lot. I mean, I was a highly attended, WrestleMania. So, God, I gotta go. I'm gonna just say one. I mean, there's moments we can all talk about. You said like Owen, you got Hell in a Cell. These are big moments for people. But as far as the significance overall in wrestling, I mean, WrestleMania one's what kicked it all off. I mean, it's got to be that for me.
Yeah, and this is why whatever you're talking about, whether it be cards, whether it be stubs, whether it be type one photos, there's little niches in each one. And, back to the goat, who's the goat of collecting? And I'm like, it's a goat of which part, right? I mean, because WrestleMania, there's people that just collect WrestleMania tickets.
Yeah.
I wouldn't choose the WrestleMania one. It's very significant, but there's more of them out there because it was a production. There's not very many, but there are more of that than, say, Hogan Sheik. Hogan beating the Sheik would
Yeah.
probably be one of my top three for sure. No question about it.
Right.
One of the rarest tickets I have is actually, believe it or not, WrestleMania 2 in LA.
Right. Where it was
And
done over 3 nights or three
yeah,
venues.
so very low attendance rate. And for whatever reason, people in LA just didn't keep them. I think they didn't know much about them. The territories really weren't there. They're up in Washington. There were some guys up in Washington area, but at that point, true wrestling fans were Midwest, Southern. And I think this is my guess, people in LA were going to it just because it was an event to be seen, to be whatever. And they didn't care about the ticket stub, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, something like that, it's rarity and then supply and demand, the old saying. So that's up there. And then the really old stuff, who knows? I mean, it just takes two to tango at auction,
Not meaning to touch a sore spot with you, Tony, but we have a series of cards called the Rax Roast Beef that was put out one night, one arena, and they've become the hardest things to find. And people were just chucking them, like no one had an idea that this was going to be something that they'd want to keep. And it's turned into probably one of the top sets in the wrestling card world. Let's talk about photography. Our very first guest on Collector Series was the Governor, Barkov, and he's a guy that's into photography, into photos. And there's not a lot of you guys that specialize. There's a few, but that do the type ones. And there's some great stuff. Like I saw something the other day, and it was a photo of Willie Mays catching a ball, and had never been seen before this angle of shot, and it traded for like over $1 million or something like that. And it's like,
150 grand.
yeah, or was that what it was? Sorry, but you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a big baseball guy, but it just caught my
Yeah.
eye that wow, no one's ever seen this shot of the catch before. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
and here's what I want Ben to kind of educate people on, like that, myself included, because Governor wasn't very informative on that, I think, if I recall correctly. What constitutes a type one photo? How do you
Okay.
how do you verify? How does they validate that?
So the type system, if you want to call it that, was started and developed by a couple of guys, Henry Yee, who's the lead authenticator for PSA, and Marshall Fogel, who has pretty much the best collection overall of baseball in the world right now. And both of them are dear friends of mine. They loved photography so much that they wanted to develop a system to categorize them because they're like, well, this is way more rare than this. They're both kind of vintage, but this one's better quality, better, so they did this type systems, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, and based on how many generations or copies. But to answer your question directly, a type 1 photo is made off the original negative. So it can't be off like a duplicate. You can't take a picture of a photo, make a duplicate negative, and print it. You have to have the original glass or 35 millimeter acetate negative, develop it off that, but this is the catch, it's got to be printed approximately within 2 years of when that photo was taken. So if I have the original negatives of like Babe Ruth rookie and print them now, the quality is off the charts, but they're new prints, right?
Yeah.
That'd be a type 2, but way modern, basically. But a type 1, the key is the quality off the original negative. So the quality of the picture is just the best it can be, and then as vintage as it can be. So it's basically the true art piece of
how do
that
they tell, man?
photographer.
Like, do you know this tone? Like, how would they authenticate this stuff? You know, not knowing,
So
yeah, all you've got is a photo. So now you have to sort of figure out its pedigree based on like someone's word or like, you know.
no, that's the beauty of photography, and that's what I love about it. Unlike, and I don't want to down autographs, I love autographs, but that you take the word for it, right? That you, because
Yeah.
there's
Trust.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
forgers,
Yeah.
but type one photograph can be authenticated by science. It's by paper fibers. Every generation, um, if you take an old get a photo that's 1920s or an old piece of 20s paper, put under a black light, it's going to be dull, just dull.
Hmm.
You take a new piece of paper, put under a black light, it's going to illuminate. It's just like our food. They put all this crap in it,
Right, right,
more
right.
shelf stable. It's not true, close to the paper, the wood of the tree, the fibers, and they're putting different chemicals in it. So there's different tells across, each decade or even within each decade. So that's one tell, and and there's different fibers. So it's scientific that way, and then also stamping, date stamps, different news services is well documented on which ones they used at which time period. Most of the time, PSA and Henry, for example, can tell. Sometimes they can't because sometimes maybe the paper was used across 15 to 20 years. They can't pinpoint it to 2 years. Then it'll be we can't tell. It's vintage, but we can't tell, and they won't give it a type. But it's scientific, and that's what I love about it. It's you send something out to get it checked out. You paid a lot of money to museums. This is the sort of things that they do. Um, so
What happens to those that they just simply can't verify that we can't lock it down to that 2 year time span? What happens to those ones?
they just send them back to the owner and give them a
Okay.
credit or whatever. Yeah, they don't.
They
They
don't
don't
get like subcategorized
compensate.
as a type 1B, a type 1C or something like that.
No,
Oh,
no. So that's the only thing that it can. Um, I don't know what the answer is to
yeah.
that, but
Well, sometimes
yeah,
they grade autos different than the card itself, right? You'll see an auto grade and then you'll see a card grade. But
yeah.
do you think, guys, maybe it's because it's a sort of small sub segment of what we do. Like it's not that popular. There's governors, a few other guys. Obviously, it's not going to be anywhere near as big as it would be in vintage sort of Hollywood pictures or baseball or anything like that. Do you think that?
It seems to be growing in that direction though. I'm seeing more and more of these type 1 type photos from various people on social media. So it does seem to be a very growing market, and I think it's pretty cool and exciting.
It's
You have any,
definitely
you have any
growing.
in the store, Tony? Does anyone ever walk in with photos thinking that that's
As a
crazy
matter
to
of
them?
fact, somewhere back here, I bought a collection of stuff not too long ago that had, various things. Mostly was, card related, maybe some action figures, some oddball stuff here and there. And there were some photos in there, and I got to go back and check. Nothing, you know, massive. Maybe some Jimmy Hart stuff, like early Jimmy Hart stuff or something like that. We got a guy that comes to the store. We call him Waldo because he dresses up at Waldo to all of our signings, and he's kind of notorious for finding some of these oddball things. And he had purchased a storage unit that had a bunch of, canceled checks from Jimmy Hart, Jimmy Hart's letter of termination from WWE,
Oh wow,
um,
cool.
just all kinds of oddball stuff. Early photographs of Jimmy Hart back in his band days in the '60s.
That's cool.
Um,
Yeah,
so I'm kind of hoping to get some of that stuff off of him eventually, but who knows? But yeah, I start seeing it more now. I'm paying more attention because of guys like Ben and other people on social media. I'm seeing stuff like now. I'm kind of almost like, okay, the cards was attracting me. But you got any photos in there, man? It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Let me see what you got in there. I'm getting kind of attracted to that kind of stuff.
that's
yeah. I mean,
interesting.
it's.
What
Go
else
ahead,
would
sir.
you say? You know, like we've touched upon. You said that the old Gentry's record by Jimmy Hart. You know, these are. Remember when we went to Atlantic City and we found those Star Trek rock
Oh
postcards.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Cancel checks has been a thing. I know that you get
yeah.
signatures of that. Obviously, we're talking about contracts. What other things, before we get into some of the wearables like robes and belts and stuff, what other things would come to mind that you think might become a collectible in the future? I guess anything with a signature, right? Because you can sign anything.
Yeah, anything with a signature. I think some of the other untapped things that, I look at parallels of the other sports because it's going
Right.
to get there. I tell everyone it's going to follow. And since I've been buying all these things, they've been going way up. And people follow me on my other stuff and know me as the photo guy. And I see now a lot of dealers buying wrestling photos, and now you're seeing big numbers and
There you go.
asks on eBay. I mean, it's happening and it's going to happen.
So you've definitely
Um,
helped establish the market.
Pins, pins are big into the other things, and there's pins out there, souvenir pins you'd get at the events. Um, I think promo photos, some of them are very rare that I found. I've been kind of looking into that and researching that. I think those have potential, big potential in the space. Pennants, there's pennants out there.
I was gonna say pennants, yeah.
Um, Posters, original posters.
Sure.
Um, just really anything that you can think of that was collectible as a kid. It's all nostalgia. It's
Yeah.
nostalgia, and then it's what can be museum quality out of that nostalgia. I mean, that's what you when those two verge, there's big potential.
And well, let's get on to some of the wearable stuff because there's a whole other segment of collectibles, and the WWE has their own show, their most wanted treasures, where it's not necessarily stuff that's signed, but it's stuff that was actually worn or used, like or the urn or things like that. That was part of nostalgia. But I want to throw out just at this point a shout out to Greg from Main Event Collectibles because he's a name that should be thrown out when we're talking about this show because he was one of the first guys, and I don't know if you know Greg, Ben. He does a lot of the same kinds of things. He big into Andre and he finds things that are signed. And again, he's a real bright spot in our community because there's not a lot of guys like you guys that do that. So we saw him, Tony and I, at our first national, and we turned around and we're like, "Wow!" And then we looked, and he was gone. We never
It
saw.
was it was literally like Batman. You're sitting there like, hey, it's Greg from Main Event Collectibles. Turn around. You see that it's Greg like that. Where the hell
You
did
go.
he go?
You
Like
remember?
he was gone like that.
Yeah, I've never met Greg in person, but I've known him via, I guess you can call it collaboration for 18 years.
Oh, have you?
Uh, oh yeah,
You guys have done
so
stuff back and
I've
forth?
I've been collecting the same sort of stuff with Cassius Clay and things, and I pull up an email from like 18 years ago, and what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And so I've been collecting a lot of boxing stuff for a long time too. So
Well, you
yeah,
really are across the board, aren't you, with everything?
I just I love history and I love sports.
Is it only sports, or do you ever dabble into the entertainment aspect too? Movies,
I do
TV,
that.
stuff like that. Yep.
I do that too. I mean, yeah, I have Rocky 3. I think I posted that, the actual gloves from Rocky 3 when he beat Clubber Lang uh, from the movie. I have Clubber Lang's robe, blue robe um, from the movie. I have, just little things like a promo photo in Tommy Boy with his dad and Spade. It's autographed by all three of them.
Nice.
The Tombstone poster I think I posted.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then type one photos. I have, World War II stuff. I love war stuff. Um, so
Incredible,
yeah,
man.
I am across the board, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So
it's commercial.
You're obviously doing this at a very high level of collecting, and congratulations on that. Now let's talk about that robe that's sitting behind you.
Oh, there's
yeah,
a rope behind him? Yeah,
Well,
I have one too,
there's
but
a robe behind two. Okay, people out there, which one would you rather have, Tony's robe or Ben's robe?
I
I
don't
take
know.
Ben.
It's kind of a
I take Ben's.
pea green or fire truck red. I think
I I I think just for the history, I would take that green robe any day.
uh,
Tell us the
Yeah.
story on that, Ben. How did it come into your possession, and if you don't mind sharing the cost of it, if you don't understand, but as much as you can about that one, because that's going to be something people want to know about, definitely.
sure, yeah, I have no problem doing that. That was a public sale within Golden.
That's
I've
right.
been searching for a Flair robe actually for a long time, 5 to 10 years. I mean, I've been interested in this stuff for a long time, and Flair robe is one thing on my wants. Flair, I love Flair as a kid, and
Right.
and it came up. I was always a bridesmaid on a lot of the Flair robes that came up for auction. But this one came up. I was actually speaking to the original owner privately prior to auction, and about it, and he threw it to auction. I ended up getting I think a good deal on. I think it was like 110 grand or something like that. I feel it's a good deal compared to other things. A lot of money, and
Yeah.
I roll stuff. I get in and out of stuff that I grow out of, and I've done very, very well on my baseball and other sports stuff. So, you know, some stuff that I always thought would be PC, I have moved a couple things, and I moved a couple pieces and bought that Flair robe. So, yeah, I mean, it was worth it.
Did you feel like you might become a bridesmaid again on that one, or were you pretty confident to win that one?
I was confident to go higher. I thought that there was the possibility to lose it because I wasn't going to go higher than the guy wanted privately, just in principle.
Right.
And I ended up getting a better deal. So I was very
I'm glad
pleased.
that worked out for you after that long search. I'm glad
Let's
it
Thank
worked
let's
you.
out for you.
let's talk about the blue Starcade robe, which in my opinion is the robe. It's the pinnacle of all wrestling collectibles. What do you know about that? Does Conrad Thompson own that currently, or do we know its whereabouts and where it stands?
Yeah, it's owned by another private collector, and he's it's kind of his thing. I mean, if you Google that robe, he has
He's
it
made
all on
himself aware.
social media.
Oh,
His
okay,
name's I don't know if I should say his name, but I just Google it. He's
but he's
all
out
over.
there.
He doesn't care, and because he promotes it, and he even tries to, and he does actually bring it places like a traveling robe, and people can get pay for entry to see it, I believe, or pay something to take a picture with it.
Wow.
This is
So
not the same robe that was on the Treasures episode, was it not?
Was
Which robe?
no,
Which robe was that?
this
That where they
was
brought? That's the one.
mine was, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
yours
okay.
was, but not
Yeah.
not the Starcade one.
No, the Starcade robe was not. The story with that one, gosh, I think and I've talked to him about this. I believe that he got that on eBay a
Really?
long time ago. I think it was on eBay, and he was because he didn't 30 years ago. I didn't have any money,
Yeah.
and he was kind of in the same boat. I mean, he didn't have anything, and the story goes, people thought he was nuts, just like people thought I was nuts, and they still think I'm nuts. But and he
We
did
don't.
it, and he did very, very well, and he did it with not a ton of means, which is really cool. And from what I gather, it's kind of like my stuff, me too. But he's really it's privately owned. It's all out there, and it's a fantastic piece. It really
Isn't
is.
there a
So
story of him leaving a robe in a hotel closet somewhere along the way? Was that one of these higher end ones, or
I know I've heard these stories. I don't know.
because
I
there's
know
also
the
the rare WCW autograph card that I consider the holy grail of wrestling cards because we've only seen the one. And I think it's one of those kinds of situations where he didn't sign his allocation, he made the one and left it somewhere and it got picked up and that's it. Um,
I
talk about
definitely know that Flair was notorious for losing things or things getting stolen back in the day. I mean, from what I gather, he'd travel so much, and that's why a lot of these robes are used in the same area. You'll find if you really research Flair and where he wrestled, and then you look at pictures like, well, shit, they're the same. It's the same. We're live. It's the same robe. It's the same
Don't worry
trunks.
about it,
Same
man. We say crazy shit all the time.
okay, same boots. So he would have these little pockets. I don't know where he kept them, if it was with a woman or a friend or
Sure.
whatever, but he would leave them places and then come back, and there's his wardrobe. He wouldn't travel with all of his stuff all the time and pick one when he was ready to go. He already knew what he was going to wear.
That makes
And
sense. That make a lot of sense, especially for that time frame.
and I think along the way, of course, things disappeared. So I think that's a common story with him.
and are now worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
Okay.
like, hey, Mr. Flair, you owe me some money. I'm keeping your robe.
There you
Exactly.
go. I wouldn't doubt that
Right.
happened too.
Could be. Ben, talk about the Macho and Hogan pieces you got behind you there.
Yeah, the macho piece is cool. It's was worn at Uncensored in 1995, and it's autographed. And what I love about this one, again, it's all the story. I am big into storytelling, stories, provenance. And this one just has all these cool things. If you watch that match, he fought or he wrestled uh oh, not Earth after his earthquake, Avalanche.
Avalanche,
Wrestled
yeah.
Avalanche,
I'll tell you.
and Flair jumped out wearing a woman's costume. So he was in the audience in drag, like undercover, jumps out, attacks Macho Man. So it's when their big feud, and he has a wig on him. It's insane. And then Hogan comes in and saves Macho Man. So you have Hogan, Flair, and Macho in this event. And this is worn by Macho on the promo right before, and he came out to it. And it's a neat piece that way, and it's autographed, which is pretty cool.
That's
So
awesome.
I got that privately. That was the first bigger ring worn thing I bought, and I got it from actually a really dear friend who's huge into ring worn, and he probably will kill me if I mention his name, but I don't think there's anybody that has what he has, not even close. It's Mike Hefner, and he's the lead, has been in the sports world forever, under Leland's auctions, and he's one of my really good friends. So shout out to him. He'll probably doesn't want me to do that, but he has the museum, in my opinion. I mean, I bet you would uh, rival the WWE maybe.
On that
So
show, The Most Wanted Treasures, there was some pretty cool looking collections in people's basements and houses. Like, some guys had stuff that you wouldn't believe. And the WWE comes knocking on their door to say, hey, we don't have anything for this character or that character, and you've got this and you've got that. Boots, masks, gloves, you name it. Some of these guys have like pretty serious collections.
yeah, and I think he was on that actually a
Was
couple
he?
times or something like it. So
Well, I know that they,
I have a customer here who's kind of he's building up to something like that, but very specific. He's a huge Tiffany Stratton fan.
mm,
So he's apparently been buying her ring worn gear since just as she started NXT.
oh wow.
So when she came out, and you wouldn't know this from this guy. Like he's sort of a goofy character, like that, and you wouldn't know that he was just kind of a guy. Knows nothing about the card world. Knows nothing about. He just likes what he likes.
yeah.
And when she cashed in and won the women's championship was here in Phoenix. So because he had built this relationship with her through email, he had messaged her and he bought that gear too.
Wow.
So the
See, now
deal
I
is,
love that.
yeah,
I love that. It's a true collector,
yeah.
and he's like cornering the market. It's smart, but it's because he wants it. And
Oh, he
it,
loves her, man. I mean, he's
yeah,
just his favorite wrestler of all the female wrestlers. He owns like 7, 8 pieces of her ring worn gear. And he's like, you know what? Would you be interested in like putting a mannequin up here? I like to put one of my own. I said, yeah, absolutely. Let's put it on
Yeah.
display here, man.
yeah. There you go. He's a goat. He's one of the goats in our area. The goat of Stratton.
And he
So
doesn't even know it. Like it's just like
yeah,
it's a fun little thing for him. Like, yeah, so what?
Yeah.
yeah,
And then one
yeah.
day he
It's great.
retires off this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, before we wrap it up, guys, I'd like to get your opinions on growth areas, because we're trying to embrace wrestling collectibles in its entirety. And of course, we always talk about cards, and then the next thing I guess would be figures and belts, and people collect t-shirts. But we've gotten into things that are a little more esoteric, tend to be more uh, on the vintage side. Where do you see the growth areas? We've talked about photography, obviously. Is there any other areas of collecting in the wrestling space that you guys think is sort of underserviced or underrepresented at the moment?
Well, I see Ben's already touched on some really good stuff anyways, as it is. I mean, they've been around for a long time, but I've seen from me, just me personally, I've seen the official promo photos for wrestling over the years has always been around, has always been a collectible. But in the last couple of years, I've really seen that really grow a lot. I mean, I've got a ton. I mean, literally hundreds, maybe thousands of official promo photos sitting back here that I acquired, stuff from stores back from the old RVD comic book shop. He had a ton of it. Now it's modern stuff. It's not going to be vintagey stuff, but I mean, I've got literally hundreds of Chris Benoit by official P series promo photos, Test P series promo photos, Crash Holly. They're all official promo photos, P series promo photos. That's a growing market. Things that used to be 2, 3, 4, 5, $10 a piece are now going for 20, 40, 100, 200, $300 a piece.
Yeah. And I touched on that. I really love them, and I see the value in here. Here's the thing, though. There's one thing to everyone knows. Okay, these are rare. These are nostalgic. These are undervalued. But then to make it go frickin' to the moon, you gotta, PSA. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Everyone hates PSA, but everyone loves PSA. So
Yeah.
you gotta, it's got to be organized to take it to that next shoot. It's got to be like a registry or something to collect. And if they could figure out a way or a list or a by year and categorize official promo photos on their site in the registry, for example, that's all it would take. Like
That, and it should
every
be fairly simple too. I mean,
and then
I mean,
slab them.
yeah, it should be fairly simple, I would think. I mean, they're no bigger than the size of a comic book. So in most cases,
Yeah.
and
And they're
so
dated.
slabbing them, yeah, they're dated
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Uh, it should be a simple process. I mean, cards is a very complicated, thing. I mean, promo photos is such a simple thing. I agree. I think doing a registry for it, damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, having to deal with PSA, but that's the king right there when it comes to authentication. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. The only thing that the hurdle with that would be it seems very easy, but okay, is this the original one? Or again, back to photography, is it a dupe photo?
Yeah,
Is it a copy with all the right everything? They would have to do that. They'd have to be able to separate 1990s or early aughts to like today if you're good because they you could print that and make those look pretty damn close, I bet right now, because
I'm
the
sure you
quality
could.
wasn't so. But
I'm
yeah, if
sure
they
you
could
could.
do that, I think that those are gigantic. And then of course, again, wrestling fans love autographs, so that kind of merges that whole thing. So I haven't bought too many of those, and now you got me going. Now I might get off the phone here and start
I
choosing. So
see. What about toys, board games, things like that? I know the Von Erich game from the 80s. If you can find a mint, even sealed, it's worth quite a bit. Nowadays the marketing machine, well, it's always been starting in the 80s with Hogan. You
Yeah.
could buy a thermos, you could buy a t-shirt, you could buy a drinking glass, you can buy probably makeup, anything, Hulk Hogan toothbrush, any of that stuff. Any wrestling sort of branded, whatever you can think of that might sort of catch and get a bit of value down the road.
100%. There's lots of Hogan stuff out there, lots
Yeah.
of wrestling cool stuff like that. Again, comparing it to like baseball, it's all nostalgia as a kid. Mickey Mantle had lots of cool stuff. He had pins, there was games, there was, pens, there was, different things like that, but it's all got to be minty. The big money comes minty in the original box. The Mickey Mantle gloves, kid gloves in the original box, just the little mitts. Oh, they're off the charts. So to answer your question, I do think there's lots of potential for that stuff, especially the really rare stuff. If you can get it in mint condition, minty, and that's another thing that PSA I think would really take it to the next level. They started slabbing these things. There's a company like AFA. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they do figures. Whether it be Master of the Universe, GI Joe, Star Wars, wrestling. Someone like that, if they could authenticate and slab that sort of thing. Everyone wants slab, but you also want to, for those boxes and things, you want to keep them in something so they don't get bumped in a corner in storage. I have a complete run minus Abdullah the Butcher of the Popey figures
Yeah.
in the things, and I have some LJNs. I have all three Hogans in the packages, and I had them autograph a couple of them. But I really love those toys too. Those now
Got to
it's the
get that
big one.
Kamala. You need that Kamala.
I know. The Kamala's the big one.
Those old
Um,
Mego figures, mint in box, they go for a ton. You remember the old Stretch Armstrong? You pull the guy
Hmm.
out. I remember
yeah,
having one and puncturing it just to see what was inside of it. Um, they go for a fortune now. Again, mint, like you say, the original packaging, anything really from back in the day. But wrestling is on such a high now. Like we're in a world today where this latest Cactus Jack chrome card, a base card is going for $2,000 for a 70 card. You know, it's like jump off the edge of a cliff kind of stuff. So I don't know where this ends, but it's definitely
That's the market we've all wanted to obtain to, though. We all wanted to be, as we said in countless of these videos, we
yeah.
all wanted to be taken seriously, that we're just as important and nostalgic and all those things as other major sports. And now we're getting to that point now where we're having high dollar things and across the board in all things. You know, I'm seeing also too another niche here within the hobby is physical media, whether it be DVDs and VHS, that stuff, because you know WWE ceased all production of DVDs now. As of the last printed DVD they put out was for Survivor Series 2023. Everything else now is all digital. So all that stuff, where I was having tons of it sitting here in the store from collections I bought, now we're like, wow, you have this WrestleMania 15 on DVD. You have WrestleMania 21. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. It's like they want that
That's
original
gradable, isn't it?
content.
They
Of
grade
course
those.
it is.
You know, like I know
100%.
video games. I know video games they do. Do they grade stuff like that? DVDs and
Absolutely.
Yes,
VHSs are
absolutely.
huge.
yeah.
And that's a great point. I might hop on eBay on that too.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, when it's all digital, it's control, right?
Yeah, it's controlled. It's edited heavily.
At the editing. So if someone gets canceled, they take them out of there. You can't find it.
So it's what I
So
tell customers who buy that stuff. I go, what you see on TV is very edited. Then you're going to have DVD, which is going to be less edited. If it was lucky enough to have a VHS counterpoint, that's even less edited. And then if you had someone who actually recorded it live like that, that's the most purest thing you're going to ever get, is that. I can see that possibly happening someday, as someone who actually recorded it on their own VHS tapes back in the day, that having some kind of a premium, because it is the purest form of that particular specific event next to being there.
Well, look at the
Yeah.
curtain call. We have that moment in history,
Yeah.
right? Only because someone was there with their camera. You know, you know, the Zapruder phenomena, where if he wasn't there at that moment, nothing would. Here's how significant it is. They have that curtain call. They break kayfabe. They hug each other. They say goodbye to Hall and Nash. And someone gets it on film, and everyone sees it, and Triple H gets into trouble. Now, Triple H getting into trouble means he's not going to win the King of the Ring. Instead, let's have Austin win it. And then Austin wins it and goes and cuts the 316 promo.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how a little
It's
thing
history.
like that
Yeah.
can change the entire trajectory of
Yeah.
the industry, right? By that one guy taking that one film, like you say, you know, virgin copy of those guys, and it's the only one. There was a Bret Hart match that everyone was interested in because this unknown guy put Bret through the paces. And that surfaced not too long ago. And it was actually WWE cameras, but they never broadcast it. They never packaged it for anything. So yeah, stuff like that that actually shows moments of significance. You know, think about the
I love
JFK
where your
film, right?
mind, I love where your mind went there, Tony. Honestly, it's just very scientific, a creative thought process. And that's what you need to do to come out ahead in these things. Look ahead. And I love the purity form. Where's the first thing? And that all ties back into photography. A type 1 photo is the only way 100% to photo match something. Do you know that? The only way, because people can manipulate scans. People can manipulate. You can stretch things. You can add things. You can discolor things. So a type 1 photo is the only way to truly photo match something 100%. And I don't think many people, if anybody, a very small percentage of people have even thought about that, but you kind of went down that path, and I appreciate that. It was cool.
Yeah, it's kind of how when I started talking to customers a couple of years ago, mentioning that when I was buying these collections of things and really started bulking up. And I had some stuff from the old RBD inventory from when he had a combo book store in LA. And I have all these factory sealed FMW stuff from Japan, factory sealed ECW VHS. They're still brand spanking new. And back then, 2-3 years ago, someone goes, "Oh, you should go get them graded." It was like $50 to get them graded. I'm like, "No, thanks." But that got me thinking about, like, wow, there's another level of collectability here with physical media. And I just think that's a very, very, very untapped market, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I just see all this stuff getting more and more popular, more and more
Yep.
valuable as wrestling continues on the spike that it's on now. I think it's all going to be great. Well, listen, guys, we can keep talking forever, but I'm scared the longer we keep talking, the more it's going to cost you money, Ben, because we keep putting things into your hands. Oh,
Yeah.
I want this, I want that. Tony,
Sorry.
any final thoughts before we call it a day?
No, man, I think you have a very impressive collection, and I'm so happy you can come on. It's like that. Actually, to see it, sitting there right
Yeah.
behind you, those pieces right there. It's incredible. I mean, mine's just who cares? It came through my door, and I'm gonna
I
wear it
got
around
to
the
show
store.
you. I got to do one card. Here's my big card. I think
Oh, there's a Hogan.
that's the nine. That's
That's a
the
nine.
that's the newest one graded. So um that's the Hogan.
Well, if it got a nine recently,
Yeah, that's the
that's a
only
that's a
one
pretty
that's
nice
recent.
card because
Yeah, this is the
I'm one of the
one.
people that believes that the ones that were graded 10 years
No,
ago were
so not
softer.
not not to get completely out, because I know we got to wrap it up here, but that's a recent graded 9.
Yeah,
Do you think of that particular 9 right there? Just opinion. If that thing was graded 10 years ago, would it be a 10?
it might be. That's my point, is that they're harder now than they used to be. And that could be a $133,000 card for all we know, you know.
At a 9, it is, but
Yeah.
as a 10, it's $1 million card. No,
Yeah, I
Question that'll never get answered, I suppose.
yeah,
it'll
I
never get
know,
answered.
yeah, I know.
I do want to say one thing. I'll leave it at this. I think that you talked about trajectory and where everyone hoped it would be and on the board and on the map. And I think that I keep going back to history and a place that it can be organized. And I think for it to sustain this and to actually grow, there needs to be more legs beneath where we're at. This fluff and everyone trading and getting the new shiny thing, and which is cool. I love that stuff too. But it seems like, okay, this is this, and then next year it's this because this is here. It's the game, the
Mhm.
hot potato game. But to sustain all this this history and the legs need to be under this, and there needs to be a place where wrestling, the whole story and evolution is told. And I know WWE is kind of working on that, but it's frustrating because they leave out a lot of the people that maybe they didn't sign or chose not to go with WWF.
Yeah,
Or we got to get past all that and look at the entire thing and bring it into like baseball as one big sport and historical timeline. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know who would do that, but
that's a
that's
that's
what
a
I kind of try to. I don't do the
that
timeline
requires
stuff.
a collection of people from different
I
areas of
think so.
expertise to
Help
kind of put
curate.
together, and that's a tough thing to do.
But
But
could you imagine if that was put together I mean, it
yeah,
would be, it has the potential for really big things. And I
yeah,
think that is very key.
yeah, I
So,
agree.
There is a plan, however loose, for a physical Hall of Fame building and eventually a museum. And
But
that's
that
all
that
this,
that plan's been
I know,
in place for
for a
20
while.
years.
Yeah, they've been talking about it for a while, but it seems like this chap that's running the warehouse where all this stuff is, and they're certainly on a acquisition mode, getting more of this stuff. That time might come, and then they'll need people like you, Ben, you, Tony, that know the history of this stuff, to sort of fill in the whole story. But yeah, very interesting to me, because
Yeah,
I'm just into
very cool.
cards. But I love this stuff, all of it. And I'm the first guy to post something weird, a
Hmm.
wrestling collectible when I see like a Savage or something strange, like you talked about your Andre the Giant thong there, Tony. You own a portion of,
I
stuff like
do.
that. It's
I
just,
do.
it's just fun. But anyways, we'll definitely, Ben, see you again in Chicago in July.
yeah,
We'll spend more than a
looking
minute and a
forward
half
to it.
together. We'll
Yeah.
definitely try and get into lunch or a dinner or something, and we'll have some fun together there. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. I'm Paul and Ann from Price Guide. Partner is Tony Vela from WrestlingTradingCards.com, and we're pleased to have today once again. Thank you, Ben. Woo, double up, woo, woo.
There you go. Nice. Thanks, guys. Thanks for
Thanks
having
very
me.
much, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Appreciate it.